During dinner, they shared the news with me, their voices measured and hushed as if delivering a positive message. My mother announced that they would be staying with me for a while, using the word temporarily. My father smiled, a smile that suggested a decision had already been made. The word hung in the air, false and heavy. I nodded and continued to eat. Inside, something within me hardened. They didn't ask, they had decided. They proceeded to explain their reasons. The house was sold, the money spent, my sister required help with her vision, family should support one another, I was stable, responsible, a safe place to land. They spoke as if I were a solution rather than a person. I gazed into my glass and contemplated the signed lease in my bag, the paid rent, the waiting keys. I let them finish their explanation. It was then that it became clear. They hadn't asked for my consent. They had already moved in and I merely needed to pack. It wasn't always like this. Once I believed in us. From childhood, I was the reserved one, self-reliant, and adept at finding solutions independently. My sister, however, blazed brilliantly and rapidly, pursuing thoughts, leaving trails of disarray behind. Parents clung to her hopes as a second chance at life, believing that each risk they took would be the one to save us all. I remained steadfast. I was their firm foundation while they gazed upwards. Upon securing this flat, my flat, they expressed pride that felt partly contingent, a pride that anticipated access, a pride laden with assumptions and expectations. At the time, I didn't recognize the deception. Now I see it subtly woven into every dialogue. Each time they commended my responsibility, each instance they said, "You'll comprehend when you're older." What they truly meant was, "This burden will be yours." The warnings were hushed, a misdirected email about selling the house that wasn't intended for me, a casual remark about downsizing paired with a glance towards my spare room, my mother inquiring about the duration of my lease. Finally, the stark confirmation. My sibling, intoxicated with optimism, informed me they'd be residing with me temporarily as it seemed logical. She spoke as if the decision was already made. I smiled, inquired about her work matters, and listened attentively. Control doesn't manifest as anger, it appears as patience. That night I found myself amidst boxes I had begun packing for a secret move, unbeknownst to anyone else. I scrutinized my finances, established boundaries, revisited the lease agreement I signed 3 weeks prior after a silent understanding that this situation was imminent. I didn't challenge them. Instead, I prepared. I redirected my mail, altered my address, arranged movers for early morning, terminated utilities. I left no grounds for contestation. No joint accounts, no spare keys, no confusion. Retribution doesn't demand spectacle, it requires precision. I slept more peacefully than in years. The following day, the apartment was emptied, leaving only remnants of echoes. My luggage by the door, my keys on the counter, the atmosphere fresh as a space after a storm. They arrived as I was about to lock the door, bringing confusion followed by annoyance and a growing sense of alarm when they understood this wasn't a mistake. "Are you leaving?" my father questioned, as if the words were unfamiliar. I responded with a nod, maintaining composure. I departed. My mother chuckled once sharply. "Don't be overly dramatic." I handed her the keys. "This isn't my place anymore." We fell into silence. They inquired about my destination. I informed them it was irrelevant. They reminded me of being family. I reminded them of notice, consent, and the boundary between assistance and assumption. My sister arrived late, with wide eyes upon seeing the vacant rooms. She looked at me as if I had violated a rule she hadn't bothered to understand. "You can't just leave," she said. I met her gaze. I had already left. The reality struck them progressively. First, they realized they had no place to go, then that the funds were depleted, and finally that I was not the safety net they'd constructed their future upon. They attempted to use guilt. I allowed it to pass. They tried anger. I remained silent. They attempted to instill fear, but it went unnoticed. The balance of power subtly and irrevocably changed. I remained calm, not raising my voice nor repeating myself. No apologies were offered. As they were still reevaluating their assumptions, I departed. In my new studio, the walls were thin, windows small, and the space barely accommodated a bed. The kitchen was merely a suggestion. It was ideal. It was a liberation from the concealed obligations hidden in the corners of my space. My phone remained untouched, its silence echoing through the room. My breath slowed as I unpacked methodically, imparting new life to my hands. They eventually figured it out and found another way, revised their narrative. They seldom contact me now. I don't harbor hate towards them. It would require more energy than they're worth. Instead, what I feel is purer relief, ownership, the peaceful contentment of choosing myself without seeking approval. They thought I was a safety net. never suspecting that I was the one wielding the scissors. Upon finally severing the ties, I did not look back. I secured the entrance and then dozed off,